Hello and welcome to another episode of The Defenders on Sansad TV, in which we are going to look at an important aspect of maritime warfare which often doesn't figure in the calculations that people make in assessing a country's naval might and its capabilities. And that is the logistics and maintenance of the vast naval fleet that countries like India have, which look after a huge coastline that some may argue is bigger than India's land borders, but importantly, a geostrategic requirement of the Navy to look after India's interests from the coasts of Africa to the Straits of Malacca. The Quad is a case in point, but so is the ongoing relationship of India with the United States in the Indo-Pacific and the existing threats that exist to India's infrastructure capabilities in the maritime sphere from the neighborhood. How does the Navy manage? How does the Navy provide all the ships, submarines, and its aviation arm with what is required? We have with us Admiral Shekhar Sinha, who has been a very senior and respected officer of the Navy. He has also served in the integrated headquarters of the services as CISC and also had been the flag officer of naval aviation and then finally, of course, retiring as C&C of the Western Naval Command. Positions which have given him a multi-dimensional understanding of Navy, its reach, its capabilities, and what is required. So welcome on the show once again, sir.
Thank you, Manoj.
Thank you. Good to have you with us. And can you explain to me that there is often this talk about the need to standardize everything. So let me break it down. The Navy has so many types of equipment. You have the aircraft carrier group, you have the frigates, you have the corvettes, you have the missile ships, you have submarines, and you have an aviation arm, amongst others. How do you standardize everything for everybody? Because there cannot be a one-size-fit-all solution for all the equipment we have.
Well, thank you, Maroof, for getting me on your show. Yes, it is a challenge, as you rightly pointed out. But Navy went into computerization of the logistics management system quite early when the other two services were not.
Okay.
Why I make this point is because it was all in-house. We didn't have the software development outside in the civil world. We could not rely on them because of the security reasons. So what we have done is primarily, as you would expect, that the class of ships, we have the compartmentalized class of ship, the logistics or the spare parts and maintenance issues. For that, we have three what is called the material organizations. One is in Mumbai, one is in Visakhapatnam, and one is in Kochi.
Jeet.
So this only looks after the submarine and the ships. Within that class of ship, we also have further categorization of the main machinery spares of one type. Then you also have the auxiliaries of the ships and submarines, and then you have the weapon systems. Now, weapon systems have got two kinds of spares. One is to run the systems, the moving parts, the mechanical part, and other one is the weapon itself. So the weapon is handled by an entirely different organization called the Naval Armament Depot.
Okay.
The senior most officer in that branch, they're all civilian officers, come through UPSC. He's part of one of the civil services, and he is an additional secretary level officer. It's quite a huge organization. As far as the stores are concerned, it is a mix of civilian officers and the the people in uniform. Logistics is a separate branch in the Navy, and their whole time job is op logistics. So having done that, Now, how do we sort of meet these requirements? We have something called a ready use store, which every ship is supposed to kit up before it sails, so that it can sustain itself. It has got a pattern of failures, and sister ships also carry a large number of the spare parts. When a fleet sails, then you also have a logistic support ship, which is the tanker. Like Asht, like Deepak, Jyoti. They are also acting as a logistic support, and they also carry fair amount of spare parts, which goes along with the ship. Now the problem arises when you have a failure or a replacement issue in a foreign port, because as you rightly said, your area of geostrategic area is quite vast, 3,000 kilometers by thumb rule in the Indian Ocean itself. We have this arrangement of R&R, recuperate and what is called the rest, with almost 28, 29 ports around in Indian Ocean.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, where we have, we don't have to take diplomatic clearance every time.
Oh.
So you just inform them that you will be coming and you go there. As you know that you don't require a visa for if you go on a warship. So we go there and we have tie-up with the ship chandlers. And ship chandlers are given advance notice that we will require so and so spare part. He will arrange, obviously it costs more, but we have a program or a method by which we replace the items which he has purchased, and therefore it is at the price that we have bought it. That is number one, except for the manpower, etc. Second thing that we do is, we also have tie-up with the manufacturers who, in case it requires a specialized sort of attention, then they fly down from their own premises and go and attend to it. Or there are dockyard teams which are waiting in Mumbai, in Visakhapatnam, in Kochi. Should they be required, they fly down to those places.
Right.
So broadly, this is how it is.
Well, very interesting, sir. I mean, this has come as a revelation to me that we have arrangements with some 26 odd ports around the Indian Ocean waters, which shows that, apart from what is covered in the media and the public announcements that is made by officials, there's a lot of unknown, unsung effort that goes into ensuring that we are ready all the time, anytime. It leads me to another sort of question before I come back to a little more detailed question on something else, and that is, there is a General Rawat, God bless his soul, had launched something called the Joint Logistics Node in your command, West Naval Command, which really talked about lead service concepts, and also it talked about the need to have services at various places, as you mentioned, as at Mumbai, at Guwahati, and at Port Blair. What does this mean?
That's a really good question. We tried that joint services node at Chennai for supporting Port Blair, because Port Blair at that time they did not have enough space to keep all the spare parts of all three services. Also, the pattern numbers are different, vastly different sort of equipment, and therefore there was a requirement to have all three services logistics people operating out of one roof, under one roof, but having their separate depots, because there was no way that you could actually bring them all together in one ledger. It's not possible. But you could access the the inventory through the computers sitting in one big office. So that was tried, and I think it is still working. We tried that from IDS headquarters. Chennai is still a joint service node, but that requires a little more work to get it fully operational, to support the Army, to support the Air Force in Car Nicobar. Navy, of course, is fully supported because it was the lead service in any case in Port Blair. It was a naval base. I mean, still remains primarily a naval base. So I think that what we also did was the material organization. We got a naval store depot that is a smaller than a material organization. So we have a NSD in smaller stations, naval store depot, and they do the same function at a much lower scale. You don't have such a huge inventory because you're only looking after the class of ships which are located in Port Blair. And we give them more than the scale which is authorized because they are quite far from mainland, so that they don't get stuck to support their ships which are operationally sort of moving up and down all the time.
So, therefore, the role of Chennai is not entirely ruled out, though you said there is a fair amount of activity at Port Blair, because I see here there's something called a Tri-Service Advanced Detachment that operates out of Port Blair, but it continues to have linkages to Chennai, and even then it has been established without any requirement for additional funds or manpower. Is that true?
That's correct.
Okay. So that's interesting. The other aspect that I'd like you to explain is something called the Maritime Infrastructure Perspective Plan, and how it works in tandem with Maritime Capability Perspective Plan. What is the difference?
Yeah, you know, the MCPP, the Capability Perspective Plan, that we started making some 15-20 years ago, and we laid for ourselves to meet the task given by the government as to what kind of platforms we will need in next 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. Who accepts it? It is a document which is within the naval headquarters. But from the time IDS headquarters has become active in the force structure, it has been presented to the IDS headquarters, and by and large IDS headquarters goes by that document, so that when you propose any equipment or a platform, IDS headquarters does not ask too many questions as to why do you need it. So this is in compliance with the MCPP, which is a vetted document. It also gets vetted by the defense account people. Now it's a different issue where there will be enough funds to support every capability that you want. May not happen, but they will actually proceed in that direction. They will not go out of the MCPP. Now once you have got the MCPP, that is how this LTPP name was given. You know, the joint service one, which first time we got it approved when I was CIS. So that was quite a task to get all three services to agree to that. Second point that I will like to make here is that the MIPP, the Maritime Infrastructure Capability document, that again is very much to see that what will be the numbers of ships, will the types be any different, what will be the inventory required, does the material organization, existing organization require one more arm to be added, will it require manpower. So it is all of it, you know, construction, structures, manpower, funding, and how will the supply chain work. So MIPP is absolutely in consonance with the capability development of the Navy that goes on simultaneously, so that from the day ship, submarine or aircraft becomes operational, you are not waiting for this system to, you know, take place. So that is that's a very good thing.
Very important,
very well
and very enlightening. And it leads me to another question related to the Navy, is that the Navy has always worked towards comprehensively addressing the twin issues of reach and sustainability. Now this comes into play whether there are longer sea legs involved, whether there are longer operational cycles. So a submarine need not be out every time for its optimum cycle. It could be shorter cycle, it could be longer cycle. There could be a logistic support requirement, and of course there is the requirement of extended air reach, something that you had personally handled. Please explain.
Again, extremely pointed question and very operational question. So what happens is, you know, in case of firstly let's look at the reach and sustainability. What all can prevent sustenance? One is that you are out at sea and there is the ship or the submarine has fallen due from some routine maintenance. You don't want that to happen. So what we do is we have a little bit of flexibility. There are 2-3 kinds of maintenance periods for a ship or a submarine. The shortest one is called the SMP, the self-maintenance period. Okay, that's normally for a week. You remain in harbor, you do all the maintenance yourself, attend to every machinery, every nook and corner, and replace something which is required to be replaced, or do the servicing during this period. If the ship is likely to be out for 2, 3, 4 months, then you may not be able to get an assisted maintenance period, which is AMP, and that is of, you know, depending upon type of ship, it could be from anything 3 weeks to maybe 6 weeks. Aircraft carriers obviously require much more time. So what we do is that the next AMP, assisted maintenance period, lot of this activity we try and club it with the self-maintenance period, with the dockyard helping you to do the maintenance. Because it would have been actually fallen due as part of assisted maintenance period at a later date. But now I know that no, I have been scheduled to sail for that long. I have been scheduled to go to so-and-so place. So you advance those things and do it so that hopefully, inshallah, you don't have those failures at sea. Yeah. So that is little bit of flexibility you have to exercise. But SMP, if you don't get an assisted maintenance period, whichever harbor you enter, you can always go into self-maintenance period and attend to those things which you have had.
No, and linked with that is another logistics requirement. Again, it is air-centric. It is said that the Navy has come up with the test trial of a particular option which is called Sayak NG, which is essentially indigenously designed and developed airdropped containers from IL-38SD aircraft of the Indian Navy off the coastline.
True.
How does it work?
Yeah, I mean, it's now it has been given a very formal name, as you mentioned. What used to happen is that there are many times when there are very critical spares which are required, for which the movement of ship may have become limited. It may be just about floating on the sea, but actually not fully operational. Or maybe it is sailing at a very reduced ability to fight. So you have this first is to move, and then you have to have a safe movement, and third is to fire and sort of. So what we used to do is we used to have what is called a duck drop. It was basically a dinghy, if you like, a design dinghy in which the spare parts used to be nicely packed, and this duck used to be dropped closer to the ship, and the divers of the ship would go and hook on to this fellow, bring it close to the ship, and then pick it up. So that was one of the methods of sending, supplying the. So now they have got a proper container so that it can carry more, and I am sure that IL-38 is on the way out. The PATI would be able to do the same job. It has little more space.
Just curiosity, who develops these containers? Does it come as part of PATI or does DRDO do it?
No. It's Navy's in-house.
Okay.
Because we have dockyards which are like, factories.
I know.
Dockyards are
They're
huge
huge.
factories.
I've been there.
Oh, so there, we have this little ability to do all that.
Yeah, because it says that critical engineering stores can be provided to ships which are deployed for more than 2,000 kilometers.
That's right. In any case, see, the point is that as I mentioned on a thumb rule, you were talking about 3,000 kilometer, from let's say Straits of Malacca to Gulf of Aden. It's about 3,000. If you go further south, it's all going to increase.
Yes.
Particularly if you go to Mauritius, if you go to Seychelles, and those areas we have our area of responsibility of the Navy is up to 10 degrees south. So which is which is quite far.
Okay.
The PATI can do it, IL-38 could do it.
Touching almost well beyond Maldives, but close to Diego Garcia.
Oh, yeah, correct. It is up to Diego Garcia.
Okay, interesting. Yeah. And now, in terms of the logistics required by navies other than ours, but friendly navies, how do we provide them mutual support? You mentioned earlier we have 26 coasts where we have coastal cities or docks or something. So, there is this whole, it's a geopolitical issue, but a local political issue also. And that is the sensitivity of foreign troops not operating out of Indian soil. But then how do you address the requirements of the foundation agreements with the Americans, for example?
We have had this situation number of times, particularly, let us say, a specific type of nuclear submarine or particular ship is docked into a harbor. Need not be naval harbor, it could be civil harbor. And normally all foreign warships, when they come to India, the Navy ties up with the civil harbor where they are docked. But the support is given by the Navy. Let us say that a nuclear submarine of a country has got a component which we don't have, not necessarily the same type. In that case, they are entitled to import that, bring it from their own country or the nearest support system, bring it into India, and if you have this 2+2 arrangement, that LEMOA that you talked about, then there are taxations are not there. You bring it, you have it fitted, they go out for trial, they come back and you go. But if you have similar type of arrangement, similar type of ship or submarine, then we also have method of book transfer of that particular component to the foreign ship, and subsequently it gets replaced by that country. It happens quite often, particularly fueling. Let's say we are operating with the 7th Fleet, or let's say in Malabar, you can have a tanker of American Navy and Indian Navy ships taking fuel from that. All this is book transfer. Just like you would do between an Indian tanker and Indian ship, you do the same book transfer with the countries with whom you have this 2+2.
So what it really establishes that before these agreements are really put into place, I mean, of course, we only hear the announcements on TV and watch it on newspapers, but so much of effort goes into fine-tuning every aspect so that later on this doesn't become a hurdle in implementation.
No, you're absolutely right. The LEMOA first draft, I was Deputy Chief of Operation at that time, handling LEMOA along with the Joint Secretary of MEA. And Leon Panetta had just become Secretary Defense. He had brought it. We had all gone through some 500-600 pages of provision. We had already done the amendments we had proposed, and it was given back to them. And that is how it did up and down. It actually all started with the naval ships. But they are the ones who keep meeting each other.
Absolutely.
They reach so far.
Yeah.
So,
and America particularly, I always say that, it's the largest navy that operates in Asia.
Yeah, quite right.
No, it is not an Asian navy.
Absolutely. Only the second point here I would like to make,
yes,
that the other, other issues, the BECA document, COMCASA, all this started with a operational role of C-130 aircraft or the P-8I, and subsequently the BECA was for the other support system. How will the ships actually go to each other's port? How will you support them? So therefore, Navy always talks about cooperation. That is why you will find that any agreement which is signed between two countries, it will first be maritime security cooperation.
Interesting. In fact, every time the Americans talk about the Indo-Pacific, that's a new term that's come into being in the last 5-6 years.
Yeah.
It used to be largely the Pacific Command, and now it's become Indo-Pacific. Though there is, as far as we are concerned, my understanding is it's more Indo than Pacific.
Very true.
Because we do not have the strategic stretch at this stage to get involved there.
Very true.
And it would lead to our involvement in conflicts, nation-nation conflicts, which we may not have an opinion or a role in, as in Russia-Ukraine conflict. So, in the Indo-Pacific context, and this is my last question, sir, preferably a short answer, there are constantly a number of ships that are deployed and operating in this region, in the Indo region, not so much as Indo-Pacific, which concerns us. And it is a question of not just logistics, but also sharing security responsibility, whether it's anti-piracy or whatever else. How does the Navy differentiate between the providing logistics supports like LEMOA and getting engaged in somebody else's war through the security dimension?
Well, now let me put it this way. If it is not Navy's own war, Navy is very unlikely to participate in actual combat with other navies or other countries. Even in the Quad and even in Malabar or Indo-Pacific, it is very clear that Indian Navy is supported by other navies who are part of this Malabar and Quad. The basic responsibility will be of Indian Ocean region. And we have been saying for a long time that you don't have to worry, just you lay off from this responsibility. We have the ability, we have the deployment, and right now China is not here in full strength. And that is why we have about 6-7 years of time where we can build under that MCPP that which you talked about. I must say that hats off to you, because nobody else has talked about MCPP in a forum. So that is one point. Secondly, it is a stated policy of the government that Navy will ensure security of its economic interest wherever it is. So therefore, if a oil platform drilling by Indian company in Vietnam, if there is a Chinese threat or if there is some sort of security threat, Indian Navy ships will be deployed. So that is the extent of Navy's main role, is to make sure that the sea lanes of communication and economic interest of our country is taken care of.
Very clear.
So that is how
Very clear. In fact, I've often said that the pressure on us in the Himalayas can easily be eased off when we put pressure on China in the maritime front, particularly in the Straits of Malacca.
No, absolutely. You are absolutely on the dot.
Right.
In fact, I would say that, I'm glad you have suggested this, because we have been suggesting, and, well, I hope that they are practicing it as well.
Well, in India, everything takes time to happen, and we think eternity is with us. But thank you very much, sir, for such deep insights into maritime logistics in the entire umbrella of maritime security. And we need to understand this, to understand that the navies of our country do not, and I'm saying navies because there's a Western Navy and an Eastern Navy, do not operate indefinitely because the government so wills it to. It is people like yourself and others down the chain who make it happen, and our compliments to them. Thank you very much, sir, and thanks for watching. Until our next episode, goodbye.